On this episode of AMC Movie Talk, me and the panel discuss: could Nicolas Cage come back as Big Daddy in Kick-Ass 2? The appeal of 50 Shades of Grey, Taken 3 being on the way, and a whole lot more. So hang tight, AMC Movie Talk starts right now. Welcome to AMC Movie Talk for movie fans. This is episode number 20, originally recorded on Thursday, October the 11th, 2012. Liam Neeson is going to kill you. This episode was originally recorded at the beautiful AMC Burbank 16 in Burbank, California. Thanks so much for joining us. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Greetings, salutations, everybody. Welcome to AMC Movie Talk for movie fans. As always, I'm your host. My name is John Campy. I'm the senior editor of movie news here at AMC Theaters. Joining me, first of all, as always, all the way over to the other side of the table, she's the associate editor of movie news here at AMC. She's Miss Roth Cornett.
Hello.
And sitting to my right, she is a film critic for Box Office and for Movie Line. She's her first time here, Miss Amy Nicholson. Amy?
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being had. We appreciate you taking time to be here.
Oh, she'll be had.
And listen, we got a whole bunch of stuff to go over today, a lot of things we're going to talk about. But we're going to start off this episode, as we do with every episode, by getting you caught up to date on everything going on in the world of movie news with your news flash. Good grief, Charlie Brown. You're getting your own movie. It's been announced that Fox Studios and their animation arm, Blue Sky Studios, will produce and distribute a full-length Peanuts movie with Charlie Brown, Snoopy, Woodstock, and the rest of the gang. Being produced alongside of Peanuts Worldwide, the movie is aiming for a 2015 release date to coincide with the 65th anniversary of the comic strip and the 50th anniversary of the much-beloved and my favorite Christmas special of all time, the Charlie Brown Christmas.
The film Chronicle was one of the best surprise hits of the year, but getting the sequel off the ground, if you'll pardon the pun, is proving a little bit difficult. Apparently, writer Max Landis, who also wrote the original, can't get Fox to sign off on his script for the sequel. Here is what Max's father, legendary director John Landis, had to say. Max wrote a sequel and it's amazing, and the studio read it and said, "We want Chronicle again." And Max said, "No, this is the sequel, it's the evolution." And they said, "No, we want that movie again." So it's difficult, we're dealing with a difficult business. We will keep you up to date on who wins this battle. Spoiler alert, it's going to be the studio.
Actor Chris Hemsworth is keeping himself busy. Not only is the Thor God of Thunder shooting Thor 2 right now, and is gearing up for his next Steven Spielberg film, Robopocalypse, it's being reported that he's been offered the lead role in the upcoming American Assassin. American Assassin is the 11th book in the Agent Mitch Rapp series written by Vince Flynn. The story would feature Hemsworth as the terrorist-hunting Agent Mitch Rapp, and would reportedly also star Bruce Willis as Hemsworth's mentor.
Clint Eastwood's next directorial film is said to be the fourth remake of the classic A Star is Born, and according to Eastwood, is targeted to go into production sometime before the summer of 2013. You may have also heard that singer Beyoncé was set to play the lead role. Well, Variety magazine is now reporting that Beyoncé has left the project. No details on why she left the movie, but the search is apparently on for her replacement, although casting the male lead is said to be the first priority at this point.
Maybe you could just have like an empty chair and pretend Beyonce's in it. Everyone knows that Kick-Ass was an amazing movie, and if you don't, you and I have nothing to talk about. Many would also agree that one of the main highlights of the film was the performance of Nicolas Cage as Big Daddy. If you've seen the original movie, you know that Cage and his character could not return for the sequel. Or could they? There have been largely unsubstantiated rumors that Big Daddy and Cage could return for Kick-Ass 2, but the most compelling argument for this return came this week when the film's director Jeff Wadlow released a picture of the Big Daddy costume with the caption, "Nobody puts Daddy in the corner." What could this mean? We'll discuss that more in just a few moments.
There appears to be some movement on the Universal Project 50 Shades of Grey. Universal Pictures and Focus Features have announced that Kelly Marcel has been tapped to pen the script for the highly anticipated erotic romance, 50 Shades of Grey. Michael DeLuca, Dana Brunetti, and author E.L. James will produce the adaptation of James's best-selling novel of the same name. Marcel is best known for having written the 2011 Blacklist script, Saving Mr. Banks, which is currently in production at Walt Disney Studios, with John Lee Hancock directing a cast that includes Tom Hanks, Emma Thompson, and Colin Farrell. She also co-wrote and executive produced television's Terra Nova for Fox.
The first official trailer for the upcoming film Hitchcock came out this week and looks amazing. The film stars Sir Anthony Hopkins as Alfred Hitchcock himself and Helen Mirren as his wife. Based on the book Alfred Hitchcock and the Making of Psycho by Stephen Rebello, Hitchcock is a love story about one of the most influential filmmakers of the last century, Alfred Hitchcock, and his wife and partner, Alma. The film takes place during the making of Hitchcock's seminal movie, Psycho.
Hasbro, the game and toy company, has just signed a production deal to bring a few more of their properties to the big screen. According to reports, in the near future, you can expect films for Monopoly, Hungry Hungry Hippos, and Action Man. Hasbro had Battleship come out earlier this year, and other projects including Ouija and Stretch Armstrong, which were going to star Twilight's Taylor Lautner, have been shelved for the time being, but are sure to be reincarnated.
And that is your news flash. Hey, listen, folks, I just want to take a minute here to remind you to click the button that you see and subscribe to AMC Theaters' YouTube channel. It will keep you up to date on all the movie news, our editorials, the newest trailers, and, of course, AMC Movie Talk in every episode we have here. So by all means, take a second right now, click on subscribe, or go to our YouTube channel and subscribe to our channel, and you'll be all set for that. Also, I want to remind you that a couple of films, it's a busy weekend at AMC Theaters this weekend. A few films are opening up in AMC Theaters nationwide. You've got the amazing Ben Affleck film, Argo, which I'm going ridiculously crazy over it. It's such a good film. You've got Sinister. You got Seven Psychopaths. You got Here Comes the Boom. There is something for everybody in theaters this weekend. Jump on over to amctheaters.com for your theater, showtime, and movie tickets that you can get right now. So go on over and do that. With that being said, hey, listen, some of you may notice that there was not, we had Tyler Perry in studio here on Monday. So there was not a Monday's version of AMC Movie Talk. And the previous Monday, we had Ethan Hawke in studio with us to talk about Sinister. We are not going to, at least for the next little while, we are no longer going to have AMC Movie Talks on Mondays. We've decided to move it to a weekly show for now. We'll see how that goes. And we're just going to have it every Thursday. Also, for those of you who watched our chat with Ethan Hawke and watched it live, the interview was great. He was such a great interview to have.
It was a really good discussion, too.
Which you can jump over and find on AMC Theaters' YouTube channel. But if you were one of the thousands of people who tried to watch it live, you know that the live stream was a total nightmare. We have been having issues with our internet service provider in our facility here. And so I've made the decision, until we get a better, more permanent internet solution in the office, that we're not going to do the show live. So obviously, you're not watching this live right now, so you know this is pre-recorded, but we will not be live. So for the time being, AMC Movie Talk will be every Thursday, and you can find it on AMC Theaters' YouTube channel. With that all out of the way, we've got some issues here to talk about. Let's start with this. One of the things that we didn't mention in the news feed, in the news flash, was that Fox is apparently extremely happy with a $50 million opening weekend for Taken 2.
Well, they should be.
Quite impressive, and it's kind of been leaked by the writer of the films that Fox has told him that Fox wants Taken 3.
Yes.
And he's already underway, and he's going with it, and he said something I think a lot of people will be very happy to hear, that, look, we've already taken everybody we can take, so we're going to go in a different direction. That tells me that in Taken 3, nobody from the Liam Neeson family is going to be kidnapped.
Oh, won't they?
I mean, I'm hoping that we can do like a Taken and Seven Psychopaths mashup, and maybe Liam Neeson has a dog
that gets taken.
Exactly. I would do anything if somebody took my cat.
I would do anything if someone took any of my animals. Yeah, I mean, speaking of Seven Psychopaths, awesome. Okay, moving on from that. I mean, I think that this is what fans, when you were saying this earlier, actually, that when they were going to make a Taken 2, you wanted the further adventures of this character, but not necessarily a rehashing of the similar plot, although apparently that's very popular as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, we talked about how when the Taken 2 trailer came out, I was all for it, because I loved Taken, and I loved Liam Neeson. And I was kind of into the trailer until it got to the point in the trailer where Liam Neeson's on the phone with his daughter again.
Having the same conversation.
Saying the exact same conversation. Listen, your mother and I are going to be taken. Da, da, da. I was like, oh, come on. You didn't just say that.
Yeah,
but
you did.
People wanted to see it.
I mean, the thing is, I can understand why Fox wants to keep making it Taken, but I don't know why Liam Neeson would say yes for a third time.
Oh.
He doesn't need to. He's been in the Batman franchise, for Christ's sake. He can retire if he wants. He can do Prestige. He can use this clout to try to do another Grey, even if he wants to go action-y, but why? Why would he say yes to Taken 3?
And it's funny, too, because at the press event for the Grey, Liam Neeson, we asked him, you know, are you going to continue to sort of be this action hero and so forth? And he started talking about his knees. And he was like, I think I have maybe 1 or 2 years left of this in me, and then I've got to be done. So it could be that he's trying to get this out of his system while he physically feels he can do it, you know?
Or let me throw a wild idea out there.
All right, let's hear it.
He likes making big hit films.
And he likes making piles and piles of money.
Dump trucks of money that people go to see.
Well, why an unusual thing to enjoy, John?
Money, it's overrated, but I think he should be in the next Expendables. Why not just like take this in a different step? If he's going to be an action hero, he should just go full throttle. But that also begs the question, why do we want to see old men beat up other old men? Why is this like an entire genre?
That's a really interesting question, and nobody's asked that yet. But I think that I like I understand what you're saying about the Expendables, but I think why Liam Neeson doesn't fit in the Expendables is because actually
he's an actor.
Although I will see anything that Gunnar Jensen is a part of.
Don't get me started.
Don't get me started. Okay. Anyway, so. But I think the reason he doesn't fit necessarily in the world of the Expendables is because he was not a big, iconic 80s/early 90s action hero. That's kind of like the criteria for that world. Like, won't it be fun to see them again? His action hero status arrived later in his career, first of all, and is happening now. So it's kind of like he doesn't fit into the Expendables mold.
But I agree with you that he's not predominantly in the vein of a Stallone, Van Damme, Schwarzenegger, Willis. But what's his first movie he's really known for? Darkman. Yeah, I mean, that's one of, and then he's been a Jedi Master. He was fighting the English in, not Rob Roy. No, yeah, definitely Rob Roy. Michael Collins was not an action film per se.
Yeah.
He's been Batman's mentor. When you really step back and look at it, when you think about it for a second, he's got a lot of action under his belt. But I agree, he's not that prototypical Arnold Schwarzenegger 80s motif. Anyway,
and if he ever did steroids, I think it would ruin the rest of his career. That's the problem. He has to balance being taken seriously with being taken for a third time. And I think the question that I want to know is, part of what I think made Taken such a success is nobody was expecting to see Liam Neeson just kick so much ass, but now that he's kicking ass all the time, I mean, at some point will the surprise stop being interesting? Will he just become generic?
It's a good question. And going back to something you asked earlier about, look, Liam Neeson is such a good actor, just period. But lest we forget that in the midst of doing Taken movies and Clash of the Titan movies, he's also been making The Greys, and he's doing all that kind of stuff. So I think there's room in his career to do the fun, big box office success films like Taken's, and still do these other things. I mean, look, Samuel L. Jackson, I believe, is set to film 75 films this year.
Right.
I'm not really sure.
I think it's 126.
Yeah, it could be close. Right around there somewhere.
Well, he'll get third billing and do 5 minutes of work. I would do it too.
But I think there's room for that. But you bring up a good question. Why do we want to see this 50? Because clearly we do. But why do we want to see this 50-plus-year-old tall Irish? And by the way, I've met, and I know all of us at this table, I've met Liam Neeson.
So
he
kind.
is a huge dude.
But he's so gentle.
Yes, but he's a big man.
But that handshake, you could see it going wrong if he just squeezed a little bit more.
It's so true.
He's a little intimidating.
Oh, I got to tell this story.
So attracted
every
to
morning I listen to, I'm a sports guy, so every morning I listen to this show on ESPN called The Herd with a guy by the name of Colin Cowherd. And he had Liam Neeson in studio with him the other day. So I'm driving in my car and listening to him, and Liam, I think he only has one volume level. He just talks like this, and he very whatever. So Colin Cowherd is talking to him, and you hear Liam Neeson's phone beep. And so Liam, sorry about that. And he takes it out of his pocket, and you can hear him. He's put on side and put it on the table in front of him. And Colin Cowherd starts going, I'm always fascinated by celebrities' phones. He goes, can I see your phone for a second? And Neeson's like, oh, okay. And he takes the phone and goes, no, with your permission, can I just open up the contacts list for a second? I'm dying to know, do you have any celebrities in your speed dial? And he says, I don't know, go ahead, I guess. And then you hear Cowherd on the radio start laughing. And he goes, folks, I swear to God, this is not scripted. I just opened up his contacts, and the very top name on his speed dial is Bono. He goes, you've got Bono on your speed dial? He goes, oh yeah, I've got
yeah.
Paul in there. Yeah. It's like, oh, Liam, you're so cool.
That's
but
amazing.
what is it about Liam Neeson that makes $50 million worth of us want to rush out to see him in an action film right away?
I'm excited about this question, and you want to know why I'm excited about this question? Because it's going to eventually tie into our 50 Shades of Grey discussion later about why that is also so appealing.
Wait, you want to see Liam Neeson with a ball gag in his mouth?
Not that. Interesting, but no, not that. Well, it's this. He is, and if you guys see The Grey, which I hope that you do, because The Grey was made as much money in its entire run as Taken 2 did in its opening
Highlight
weekend.
that point.
Yeah.
Taken 2 made roughly as much money as all of The Grey did in its entire domestic run.
It's opening weekend.
It's opening weekend.
Please do see The Grey, because it's not quite the action film that Taken is, but it's just so great and so interesting. And
it is. I'll never watch it again because it stressed me out way too much.
Yeah.
But it's fabulous.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, you should see it.
So, but what I think, what the character that he is in The Grey is what he taps into on a more, I guess, action visceral level in these other movies, which is he is the embodiment of the alpha male. And by that, I don't mean that he's full of, and what's great about it is that he's not full of machismo. He's not trying to be a jerk. He's never is a jerk for no reason. You know what I mean? He is the alpha male in the sense that he is absolutely fundamentally a leader, that he will put other people's needs above his own more often than not, and he will take care of the pack, whatever his particular pack is. And Taken, it's his daughter, it's his family, you know, and he will be ruthless in his care for the pack, but it's all coming from a very fundamentally alpha leadership place. It's not, and there's a character in The Grey that has the negative aspects of the misinterpreted alpha male, which is Frank Grillo, and he acts like full of machismo, and he's really selfish, and he's really violent for no reason, and he learned sort of a lesson through that. Anyway, that's the reason I think that people respond to Liam Neeson the way that they do, is because I think culturally we crave those definitions again. I mean, I'm not saying that we need to revert back to a past. I'm not that person. That didn't make sense. But I do think that there are times that we crave those definitions of like, this is a man. It's the reason Mad Men is popular.
Right.
This is a man, and this is how he acts. You know?
So you're saying that Liam Neeson is like the ultimate sexy dad? Or that
that is
yes,
what I am saying.
That's actually,
that is actually he
Yeah.
is the ultimate patriarch in that
Right.
sense. Yes, and I think we miss that.
And what I like about his alpha is it comes with brains. You know, he can also
But an
outthink
alpha,
everybody.
wouldn't an alpha be the smartest one as well as the strongest one? Yeah.
And can I say that he has great legs? Because
Can I?
he's in this world of actors with surprisingly great legs. It's him and John C. Reilly, who has amazing legs. I don't know if you've ever really looked at them.
I was just talking about that myself. No more
Were
than
you?
Yeah.
So he
It's
is also
distracting in Step Brothers.
He's
It's
a
distracting.
physical.
Oh yeah, actually, when he's in the skimpy
looks
underwear,
good
it's like,
inside.
wait a minute, he looks like he rides a bike or something.
Yeah.
It actually does now that you mention it.
I love the crush, the Liam Neeson crushing that is happening right now. But yes, he is also a very delightful physical
But
specimen.
on top of the patriarchal thing, and I'm glad you brought that up because there's a daddy issue about him, really.
Well, but we're missing that, right?
Yeah, but also along with him, a lot of the action heroes, there's a formula for them in Hollywood. That does work, so there's no problem with formulas. I have no problem with formulas. But the formula is, brash and hotshot and blah, blah. Right. There is a quiet nobility about Liam Neeson that goes along with the badassness. Like Jean-Claude Van Damme can say to me, I'm going to kick your ass. And I'm going to go, well, yeah, he'll probably kick my ass. Whatever, you're an idiot. I love Jean-Claude Van Damme, actually.
And he's not an idiot. He has a PhD.
Yes.
I made that up. I'm really sorry.
No, he's got 3.
No,
it's
Dolph
Gunnar.
Lundgren.
Gunnar has a PhD.
Dolph Lundgren
I was just trying to
is
pull
in,
up.
Dolph Lundgren is in Mensa.
But if Liam
And in my
Neeson,
heart.
who doesn't look nearly as buff, even though he's a huge man, he doesn't look near as buff, whatever, just looked at me quietly and said, if I ever see you again, I'm going to kick your ass.
Yeah.
I would crap myself.
And you would know that
There's
that's
something
absolutely
about
true.
that. There's that quiet, strong nobility about him that's like a righteous indignation that comes across in him that doesn't come across in these
He's
other
mad
action
at
stars.
you for making you kill him. I mean, even in
Making
Taken
him
2.
kill you.
Making him kill you. Because even in Taken 2, when he snaps a neck, he seems sort of sad about it. Like, I can't believe you drove me to this point.
He's got that king-like quality.
Right. But I mean, the question I have for you as a man, because I can understand part of why we love him as women. I think men have an interesting time trying to identify with an action hero, but he seems like a guy that men like as much as women, maybe even more than women.
Absolutely. I think the main reason for that is because there is, I cannot relate in any way with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I cannot identify in any way with Sylvester Stallone. I love watching him for the action heroes, and on that visceral level, that's awesome. I can't relate with a Jean-Claude Van Damme. There is something infinitely relatable about a Liam Neeson. He said, who that kind of feels like not only could I know this guy, I could kind of be, there are many things about him that are me. He is the guy next door, the quiet neighbor who, though you never steal his lawnmower, there is that relatability. I think there's, and then when that guy launches into, you messed with my daughter, I'm going to kick your ass. There's something about us that goes, yeah, that's what I would do, you know,
exactly.
sort of thing. It's a wonderful appeal.
And it's what you hope, it's what I think that you hope everyone would do, though most people wouldn't. You know what I mean? Nobody really could do that and have those skills to go and like.
I could,
except for
my
Amy.
Don't mess with my cat.
Why do you think we're friends? Because she could
you're
do
afraid
that.
of me.
Because I'm afraid of you, terrified. But like, who could really do that? But it is the thing that you wish that people would want to do, or seems like the right thing to do. And I think as a female, you wish that your father and your partner would have that kind of strength of will, that if you were in that kind of trouble, they would do that. Now, obviously this is all big, elaborate fantasy, you know what I mean? But I think that the fundamental traits that Liam Neeson has, or at least he exudes on film, are the things that we crave in our image of what it is to be an alpha male. You know?
I agree.
That's true.
And listen, we got to move on, but we would love to jump in the comment section, guys. We want to know, what is the huge, massive appeal for you for Liam Neeson as an action star? Let's move on to this. I was so pleasantly surprised and loved Kick-Ass.
Yes.
I mean, and the hype for it began in the previous year's Comic-Con when they showed some stuff, and I thought, this is just a sad attempt. And although I really like the director,
Matthew Vaughn?
Yes.
Matthew Vaughn. I was going to say Matthew Fox. I don't know why I said, but Matthew Vaughn, who directed, I think, one of the most underrated films in history, Stardust.
Who
which
I absolutely love that
film.
movie. I own that. Have you seen it?
I have seen it, but I couldn't
movie.
quite get into it for some reason.
It's my new Princess
I love
Bride.
It.
but-
I love it, and I love the.
And then he did X-Men First Class.
Yeah.
I mean, Matthew Vaughn is just terrific. But even still, I thought Kick-Ass looked like a poor, cheap attempt going to lowest common denominator. But I thought it was so clever, so witty, so fun, so exciting. One of the biggest reasons for that was the shocking performance of Nicolas Cage playing Big Daddy, you know, using his whole Adam West kind of persona, which just banged it out of the park. Obviously, spoiler alert, Big Daddy apparently dies at the end of Kick-Ass.
I mean, that's a lot to survive.
Yes.
Like that.
Yes. Now, as some people said on the chat boards and have emailed to me and tweeted to me when I say, well, you know, he's dead. It's like, well, okay, think about this. We never saw a funeral.
No.
Never saw a body. We never saw
We never got confirmation on the kill.
However,
exactly.
we
So
did
there's
see his
wiggle
daughter
room.
alone and abandoned in the world. So if he's faking
Yes.
it, he's kind of a terrible dad.
Or maybe thinking this is what's best for her.
Yeah.
You know, there's an argument, but still a
Because he had
stretch.
questionable parenting techniques.
Yes.
He was sort of a psycho abuser, David Koreshian superhero.
You
killer.
know, yeah, there's questionable, and I think the movie highlights his questionable parenting skills.
He's just this lovable nerd.
Yeah.
But he's this ultimate badass at the same time. I loved it. So listen, so then there are these rumors that he'd come back, and I never bought that for a second. I wanted to believe it, but I knew we couldn't. He's not coming back. And then the rumors persist and persist, unsubstantiated. But then, Roth, you posted on AMC Movie News the other day, this picture comes out from the director of the film. Talk about that.
Yeah. Jeff Wadlow tweeted. He's been tweeting out a bunch of stuff teasing the fans. I love it when filmmakers, this is just an aside, but I love it when filmmakers are great at social media, because it's so fun to be able to engage with them that way and feel like you're a part of the process. Plus, I think it's smart in this world to do that with your fans. But anyway, so he's been tweeting out a bunch of stuff from the set that are all kind of teasing spoilers. But one of them was the suit, Big Daddy's suit, and it said, "Nobody puts Daddy in the corner." And so the question is, okay, is Big Daddy coming back, or is he just visiting the old suit? You know, or is this another actor and another character? I haven't read Kick-Ass. I haven't read the comic. Or is this another actor and another character that is going to be in Big Daddy's suit? You know what I mean? As if it could be somebody else taking on the Big Daddy role that's not Nicolas Cage. Or is Nicolas Cage coming back? Even if it's not in the comic, is he coming back in the movie?
Here's an interesting thing about the picture. When you look at the picture, and we'll have it up here on the screen, you see it's the outfit in a glass case.
Yes.
Now this is, for anybody who knows the comic books at all, this is an exact homage to what Batman has.
Right.
In Batman's cave, he has a big glass case with the Robin outfit representing and honoring the dead Robin who died. So, on first, if the director hadn't tweeted this out and that picture just got leaked, I would just say, oh, so it's just like Batman, where they've just got this monument, basically, to the fallen Big Daddy. And here's the thing. I believe it's good to put out, Michael Bay is great at misdirection. So I believe misdirection can be good. But when you know that your fan base desperately wants Big Daddy back, don't tease that if you're not going to deliver it.
Right.
I mean, give misdirection and other things, but we want Big Daddy and Nicolas Cage. That's what we want. It's okay if you don't put him in, but don't tease us that you're going to put him in.
Yeah.
Like,
especially in something as fan-driven as this. Because it didn't even make big box office. It was just a celebrated cult film. You can't mess with that core. I mean, the only thing I hope is that if he does bring him back, he's bold about it, and it's not just like 1 2-minute flashback where he tells Hit Girl be strong, and then everybody applauds,
or
and by the time
sequence.
by the time you're done clapping, it's over.
Yeah.
I hope they're serious about it. If they're going to do it, just have him reborn from a bolt of lightning,
Yeah.
Why not? You can do anything.
Okay. But here was the other teaser. And if you guys have read the comic, and you know the answer to these things, don't post it, please, because I want to see it in the film, and then I'm going to read the comic after that. So, because I do things the reverse way. But the other thing that he tweeted last week was a coffin with guns in it, which everyone's saying, if you've read the comic, you know what this is about. And my theory on that, which could be totally bananas, was this is the funeral, and that Big Daddy, or they had to dig up the grave, or this is the funeral, and Big Daddy's not in the coffin, it's guns.
I've read the book, but I have not read.
You have?
I have not read the subsequent books. So I have not read the books that Kick-Ass 2
that's what
are based on. Those I have not read.
Right.
So I don't know either. And I'm like you. I don't like to read something before the movie comes out.
Yeah. I just downloaded Cloud Atlas. I'm going to read it next week.
Right.
But the one thing I'm also really curious about them making a sequel to Kick-Ass is how long can we have the shock of Chloe Grace Moretz playing a little girl killer when she's growing up so fast.
It's true,
and they don't make her look like a little kid. The
No.
picture we've seen, she looks, which I'm happy about.
Yeah.
She looks like she's growing.
Yeah,
but that was my biggest question too the other week when we were talking about Kick-Ass. Then is I was like, one of the best parts about Kick-Ass for me was Hit Girl. I mean, I loved Big Daddy, but I loved Hit Girl, and that action sequence in the
going
hallway,
down the hallway, one of the best action sequences of the year.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Took the cake for me. I mean, it blew me away, and I thought, but how do you maintain that sense of violent whimsy? I guess when she's a grown up.
I think the way that the rest of the film achieved it without Hit Girl. I mean, yeah, you can't do I'm the adorable little girl, hee lollipops, and now I'm going to shoot you in the face. You can't do that anymore.
So cute.
But even beyond that whimsy was with Nicolas Cage. That whimsy was with The Red Mist. That whimsy was with the brilliance to me of Kick-Ass was the way they acknowledged and embraced the ridiculousness of this world in a real context. I mean, this is preposterous, and they embraced the preposterousness of it. And the Hit Girl thing was one element of that, which I adored and I loved. But that action sequence, I don't care if it's a 12-year-old Hit Girl or a 24-year-old Hit Woman, you do that same action sequence, same way, I'm eating it up just as much.
Yeah, but we have a lot of women in spandex beating up people in the movies already. We don't have a lot of kids. And Chloe Grace, she's going to be a beautiful woman, probably in 6 months. That woman, she's growing so fast. But wait, I had a question I want to ask you guys really fast. Say that this is sort of a decoy, and that Big Daddy does come back, but it's not going to be Nicolas Cage. Who else do you think could play that?
Liam Neeson. That's a great question. I mean, it'd have to be somebody, I think, to fit in the whole feel of it. Somebody's got a foot in the comedy world and a foot. So it would have to almost be a ridiculous choice.
Woody Harrelson?
Woody Harrelson's a great
do it
idea.
Because, I mean, he sort of just did a character in Seven Psychopaths that I almost... I know this is going to sound crazy, but you know who I would love? Or is he in it? Am I out of my mind?
Jim Carrey?
No.
Because he is in it.
John Malkovich.
Ooh.
Little old.
I know he's
Look
old.
great in red.
Big Granddaddy.
Big Granddaddy. I love it. That's great.
Big Granddaddy. Yes. I know he's old, but he has those like he's got the dramatic, the comedic, and the psychotic kind of nailed. You know?
The only other person who has that as perfect, but I'm also saying this because I just want to see him in every movie, is Michael Shannon.
Yes.
I want Michael Shannon in everything.
Michael Shannon. But he's almost too scary. Because Big Daddy was also really lovable. Michael Shannon is just always terrifying.
Oh, no. You see the Queen?
Yeah. Michael Shannon?
I'm sorry.
Wait.
I'm thinking of...
I was like, was Michael Shannon in the Queen?
I know. I was just taking a deep breath and going through my head to try to place him in there.
Sorry about that.
You know
who I'm
you're talking
thinking
about
of.
Michael, anyway.
Sheen. I'm
Michael
thinking of
Sheen.
Sheen. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're really similar, except they're like a foot and a half apart.
much different guy. Much different guy. Sorry about that. Well, listen, we got to move on from this. We got a couple other things. Just, once again, hop in the comment section. Let us know what you think of the whole Big Daddy thing. Okay, look, it's a very big popular trend right now to take popular books. Actually, it's not even right now. Forever, it's been a big popular trend to take popular books and turn them into popular movies, hopefully. Fingers crossed. And the franchise books aimed at the not male audience have kind of been the big thing of that. The Twilight series, the Hunger Games series.
At the not male
I'm sorry,
audience.
not male? Is that what we're calling it?
Linda, that's the not male audience.
I'm a little insulted.
Like you can't even. Like, we don't even have our own gender
Just the
anymore.
lack of being you?
Maybe that was a poor choice of words.
Maybe
I
that
apologize.
was a poor choice of words.
But
Maybe that
let's
was
face
just
it.
a not good choice of words.
But let's face it. I mean, I think it actually, I stand by the phrasing because unfortunately, so many of these film franchises are just targeted at the 18 to 35-year-old males. And it is kind of nice having franchises being now put out. This is a new thing, having franchises put out that are not aimed at that demographic. And that's a good thing. 50 Shades of Grey
Highly controversial.
Now, I have not, right up front, I have not read. I've read excerpts from the book. I have not read the books.
His wife has read them too.
My wife has read them twice, all the way through the trilogy, I believe.
Has that changed your life at home?
I am not going to neither confirm nor deny. But this is not targeted at the Twilight audience. This is not targeted at the...
but it is
for
actually
the Twilight
way,
audience.
yeah.
because it started.
Originally
it was
right?
originally erotic fan fiction that was Twilight fan fiction. So it was basically taking the characters of Bella and Edward and imagining them not in a not supernatural. He wasn't a vampire, so it was not supernatural, but imagining them in an erotic BDSM setting, which the number one most downloaded kind of books right now, number one with a bullet, is female erotic literature or romance novels. And secondarily to that, another very popular subgenre is BDSM. And so 50 Shades of Grey was started as Twilight fanfic that was BDSM, and then it blew up and she changed the characters' names. But even in the first, our friends, we had a night about it. Our friend brought us the original piece of fanfic, and they were called Bella and Edward, the characters.
Right. We should admit right now that we were in a female book club that actually read 50 Shades of Grey.
We did, because we were fascinated by the cultural phenomenon. It was very really, intellectual.
Yeah. It was just for the cultural phenomenon.
The funny thing is,
it was
had a guy back me up. Had a guy decided to do erotic. I love it when a woman writes it. It's called erotic. When a guy does it, it's called smut or porn. But if a guy had done this sort of fan fiction idea, erotic fan fiction, that's actually many guys have.
I feel like they exist.
It's called anime porn.
Yeah.
That's what it's called.
Yeah.
But okay, so explain to me. Well, let's get to the news part of it. We understood a while ago, I think back in March.
There's a 50 Shades of Grey porn in production now.
Of course there is.
Which my response to that is like, well, that's not the porn. That's just sticking to canon.
That's sticking to the book.
I've actually seen the trailer of that because one of my male friends is a porn actor and he was going to go out for the role. But he didn't get it, which was really sad. Anyway, very sad.
We actually know the guy that did.
Yeah. He did get the Ryan Gosling role in the porn version of The Notebook, so that's awesome.
Well, there you go. He's got a career going.
Yeah. But anyway.
So we knew that back in March, Universal picked up the rights. that every studio was bidding on. So they got the rights to it. And now there's actually movement. They've hired the writer from actually the not bad little Fox show Terra Nova, which wasn't horrible. Actually, I finally got around to watching Terra Nova, the entire series in one day, about maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, not realizing that the show had been canceled.
Right.
I would have wasted my time on it had I known the show had been canceled. But it really actually pretty well written. Not a bad little piece of work. And this new Disney film that they're doing,
Saving Mr. Banks,
it sounds
about
quite
the
fascinating.
making of Mary Poppins.
Mary Poppins, which I think sounds fascinating.
It would be better if it had bondage.
It would be better.
But if it had bondage, it would.
So my question is to ladies who have read the books.
Yes.
What is the phenomenal appeal of 50 Shades of Grey?
I think we read it and we still don't.
Oh no, I know.
That's great.
I know. I know.
I want to hear your theory because we have to say right off the bat though that it is one of the most horribly written pieces of literature in the world, and it was a pain to get through. And if we hadn't all been on Twitter making fun of it at the same time, I might have jumped off a bridge. But if you know why it's good,
I do. I don't know why it's good. I would never say that it's good. It really is horrifically written. I feel bad saying this to some degree, but it is horrifically written. I mean, I know people complained about the way that Twilight was written. That is high literature. It is first person present tense, people. That means it goes something like this. I'm sitting in the room with Christian. I feel stupid. Like the girl, it's so annoying because just like, the complaint about Bella Swan is that she's always so insecure and feeling bad about herself. This girl takes that to the nth degree.
With the added bonus that she's always swearing in her own head like a Midwestern school teacher.
Yeah.
She's like, he's tying me up. Holy heck, this is painful.
Yeah, and it's so weird because you're like, this is your internal dialogue. Let loose, Missy. Go ahead and curse as you're being beaten with a whip. But this is what I truly think the appeal is, and I think it's a similar thing to what I was talking about earlier, and it's similar to the Twilight appeal. Is that on a subconscious level, that culturally that gender roles have been very confused for the last 30, 40 years, and I think that as much as we don't want to backtrack to a time that didn't make sense for men or women, that there is something about the idea that in this one area of your life that just, even if it's just in the bedroom, that the roles are very clear, what I mean? And that as a woman that you feel a lot of times I think that a lot of us feel that we have to play multiple roles, that we have to be the woman and the man, that I know a lot of friends of mine that play both of those roles in their marriage sometimes.
We have to be the taken teenager and we have to be the Liam Neeson.
We have to be Liam Neeson and the girl, It's a really confusing, and I think that men are, and I'm only speaking for women because I am one, because I think that men are equally confused and feel sort of a lack.
Yeah, no offense to any of this.
Yeah, no, this isn't offense
I'm as
to
messed
men
up
at
as
all.
Anybody. That's fine.
I'm just saying that I really think that the reason these have hit such a chord is because they are fulfilling fundamental DNA-driven desires of women to be, I think that a lot of times what women want more than anything is to feel safe and to feel desired. Well, the way these novels are written is so that the guy is set up in every way, whether it's in the real world, material world. He's massively rich. He can take care of her. She feels safe. Or he's a vampire. He can kill everything that comes at her. So they're safe. Then desired is that in Twilight, he is genetically DNA manufactured to only be in love with her forever. Like he gets frozen in that state. And in Christian Grey, in 50 Shades of Grey, is so damaged that the only human being he's ever really been able to connect with is her. And the implication is she is the only one that he ever will be able to connect with. So she feels both safe and desired. Her two most fundamental needs are met, and it will never change. And then I think there's a fear of mortality, a fear of our own insignificance that for some reason needs to be reflected in how other people feel about you. You become significant by the level that you are significant in somebody else's life. And in both of these novels, they're ultimately significant in these people's lives.
And to back up kind of what you're saying,
plus
to me,
it's hot.
Yeah.
Sometimes, not always.
To back up what you're saying, like when I finished reading the first book and I discovered to my horror that it was a trilogy, I went Googling on the internet just to find out what happened, so I didn't have to read the last part of the books.
Yeah.
And the first thing I came across was a Yahoo Answers where a woman wrote, "Started reading this book. It's terrible. Can somebody just tell me if they get married and have babies?"
There you
And
go.
someone wrote, "Yes." And then she's like, "Great, thanks." And so it's everything. It's terrible. It's sex, and they also get married and have babies.
Yeah, they do get married. They get married, but that's what I think I'm saying is that as much as like you and I don't function this way in our world, and most people don't really function this way, I do think that there are fundamental drives or desires that this is tapping into. I don't think you can argue with that. And like, I don't think that those drives and desires, there's a simple answer for solving them in the real world and in a real relationship. And that's why we moved to fantasy.
All right, we got to move on. We've gone way over time.
Are we making you uncomfortable?
I'm getting all hot and bothered. Okay, so let us know what you think. What do you got? What is the appeal for you guys for 50 Shades of Grey? Let us know in the comment section below. Hey, listen, we're going to get to the mailbag here in just a second, but before we do, I mentioned a little bit earlier that one of the films opening up in AMC theaters everywhere this weekend is the wonderful film from Ben Affleck, Argo, which Affleck has directed. It's his third directed film. First was Gone Baby Gone, which was great. Then he did The Town, which is great. And now he's done Argo, which I think is his best work so far. Last week, I had a chance to actually go and sit down and talk with Ben Affleck about Argo. And we want to share that interview with you right now. Here, take a look. A call this morning from a Warner Brothers publicist, standard stuff, asking me how I like the movie. And I said verbatim, if Ben Affleck doesn't get a nomination for Best Director this year, I'm going to slash somebody's tires.
Well, we don't want that.
No.
So
you did a couple of incredibly gutsy things in this film that blew my mind. The first thing is, I think in the hands of a lesser director, would have given into the temptation to throw in gunfights. You know, oh, we're going to have some kind of manufactured excitement here. You let the natural tension of the circumstances themselves just simmer and boil on their own. Was that a conscious decision? And if so, why did you choose to go in that direction?
yeah, I mean, I thought that there was definitely. Thank you very much. One thing I thought there was definitely a that it was sufficiently tense and kind of excruciating if just played realistically. There's sort of different ways to make the movie, right? One is sort of to make it a heightened movie, and there's more shooting and there's more craziness. But then we also, the downside is we kind of stop believing. You know, we get inured to it. We turn down our credulity meter a little bit. But when we take that away, you know, we just have people, you know, who seem like real people in these situations. Now we get tense, ostensibly just from somebody sitting on a bus and looking around and walking up the stairs to an airplane, and that's how I wanted to do it, to make a sort of intense thriller, a legitimate comedy, a kind of CIA story, and integrate them all into one movie.
Now, one of the other things you did that I thought was really, really gutsy is I think there must have been a temptation there to paint, especially in a situation like this, the Iranians at the time as the mustache-twirling bad guys, villains. But you took a lot of effort to really paint this picture of these were a people who were legitimately and had very good reasons for feeling very wronged. And it's almost like that righteous indignation I find much more scary than some one-dimensional mustache-twirling villain. Again, why did you think that was important? Why did you decide to take that time to paint that sort of a picture for us?
Well, there's a piece at the beginning which includes some historical stuff, which is meant to provide context for the audience. So they don't just show up and see these kind of bearded crazies banging on the door of the embassy, but that they understand it. Not to absolve anybody, not to lay further blame, but simply to say, here are the facts of the world as they existed. And oftentimes people just don't know them plainly. And so to understand this stuff, I think, is also to be able to make connections to the modern day, because you see the overthrow of Mossadegh and the installation of the Shah and him being repressive, but he's our ally, and then he's overthrown by this revolution and the unintended consequences of that. Well, that now feels a bit like Mubarak or Syria or some of these things, without me going, jumping up and down and trying to get people to make those correlations in their own.
Well, congratulations on the film. It's fantastic. We can't wait to have it on AMC screens.
Thank you. I can't wait till you get it.
Once again, Argo opens in AMC theaters everywhere this weekend. Jump on over to amctheaters.com to buy your tickets for it right now, or for Sinister, or Here Comes the Boom, or Seven Psychopaths.
Yeah.
Any other. Go on over there right now and check it out.
So good.
It is now time for us to jump to our mailbag. Hey, listen, folks, you can email us 24/7 anytime. Send us your email questions to amcmovietalk@gmail.com. We go through all the emails every week, and we pick a few of them that we think are the best, and we answer them. And we're going to get to a couple of them here. The first email comes from Matt M., who asks this. Before the advent, or at least popularity, of the internet, you went to see movies based on the cast and or how interesting the trailer was. Local newspaper movie critics never really persuaded me. Now we have movie review sites and score aggregators like Rotten Tomatoes and Metascore that pass judgment on opening day, which could easily change somebody's mind about seeing a film. So, do you think the availability and popularity of movie review score aggregators is ruining the whole process of organic discovery in cinema, or just keeping more people from seeing bad movies? Matt M. Roth, let's start with you. What do you think about that?
I don't think it stops people from seeing bad movies at all, because people continuously pay lots of money to see really, like, what critics are calling a bad movie and that has a very low rating on Rotten Tomatoes will often score really big at the box office.
Like Taken 2.
Like Taken 2. And the reverse is also true. You know, a very highly critically rated film will often not do that well at the box office, you know. I don't know what The Grey was rated. I think that was a little more contentious.
I think The Grey was pretty high, though, but I think what's interesting is also talking about Rotten Tomatoes and the way critics are scored is the opinions don't even just get made right before opening weekend, like he's saying. Like, people will put their reviews up weeks in advance, and so there's a tone about it even when other critics are writing films. And I think with The Grey, everybody thought it was the movie where Liam Neeson punches a wolf. So reviews started low for that and then built. So it's weird how it even influences writing.
Because the people, I think, I went in thinking that it was going to be wolf punching also.
Hoping,
and
really.
I mean, I was excited for it, but... And then I came out and I was delighted with what it actually was. I really loved it. But I think that the problem with the review, I think that what it does is that stops people from seeing perhaps a bad movie that they don't know much about otherwise. I think that if there's already kind of a franchise investment in it, that what critics do has not a ton of impact, unfortunately. But that if there's a movie like, The Apparition, where people are like, maybe if it got really highly rated and people were saying this is an awesome horror movie, you have to see it, people would go see it. But because it was like 3%, then they're not going to go see it. And so I think that's what it does. But the problem I have with review aggregates is that if it becomes your model for how good a movie is, that's where it gets problematic for me. Because something that's rated 80%, two movies that are rated 80%, one could be a fun, silly, lighthearted family film that gets rated at 80% because critics liked it for what it was. And another movie could really be kind of, I guess, have more aesthetic or thematic merit as a film, and they're rating it for what it is, but they're both sitting at 80%, or this one's maybe even at 75%. And I think the idea that the 80% one is there inherently a better movie is the problem. It just gets a little, loses some nuance.
I don't think that gets into the whole big discussion, though, about the subjectivity of film and what is it that makes one film better over another. I think ultimately, at the end of the day, what I grade a film as is not, was it good for that type of movie? Was this good for that type of movie? Me personally, when I walk out of a film, is how much did I enjoy myself in that theater today? And I mean, you can go. I've seen films that have tons of artistic merit, but they focus on their artistic merit so much that they forget to give you a good time. They forget, and you can have depressing, sad, heavy films that are still emotionally really exciting, and that you watch and you enjoy and you can grasp. You can make those types of movies. Sometimes I think there are many movies that focus so much on the artisticness of the film, they forget to make an enjoyable film. They forget to make a film that grabs people and makes them want to watch it. So I think you can have the light, silly comedy be better than a potential Oscar-nominated film, depending on what you're measuring it by. But I think the big thing is this. The question is, I remember talking to a studio executive a couple of years ago, and they said, look, there's a myth that people don't listen to critics. He said they do. It's not huge, but trust me, he goes, it is a 10% positive or a 10% negative swing. In other words, if you had a movie, the way he described it to me was, if you had a movie that makes $100 million, let's say that's just base, it's going to make $100 million. If the reviews are really great, we can get 110. If they're really bad, it can make 90. That's a $20 million swing. He said, you don't think for a second, and that even though that sounds like a small percentage, studios will go to great lengths to get that extra $2 million, to get those extra $5 million. He goes, so to us, that bad movie made $200 million. Yeah, but it probably would have made $240 had it been good.
Right.
And then however much more on home video later because it was a good movie. But here's the big problem I have, and I'll get to your point in a second, but the big problem I have with the question, Matt, is this. Is like you're saying, are things like Metacritic or Rotten Tomatoes ruining what you refer to as the organic discovery process? Because we used to just base it on who the movie stars are and the trailers. Listen to me really closely right now. And I have this argument all the time with people say, make up your own mind. Don't listen to critics. Make up your own mind. Just watch a trailer and decide if you think it's good. You're deluding yourself. Here's the thing. You are listening to somebody. And if you just base whether or not you're going to see a movie on the trailer, as opposed to, say, going to Rotten Tomatoes or to Metacritic or some of your most trusted film critics, here's the thing. If you don't listen to that, then you're still listening to somebody. The problem is the only voice you're listening to is the PR department of the studio who is trying to get your money. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with the PR studios trying to get your money. That's business. That's what the movie world is. There's nothing wrong with that. But just be aware that you are listening to somebody, but instead of listening to somebody who is not financially going to gain from whether or not you listen to me, look, if I tell you a movie's good, I'm not going to get a single extra dollar if you go see it. I'm not going to get a single dollar less if you don't. But if you listen to my voice or people who work in this kind of field, you're at least listening to people who really don't have anything to gain from whether you listen to them or not. If you just go by trailers, you are only listening to the voice of the people who are directly trying to take your money. So you're listening to somebody. Anyway, what is your thought on all this, Amy?
Well, I was just going to say something about aggregation sites in general, because I think they're really interesting in terms of like marshalling opinions and categorizing them.
Right.
Like when I'm a critic, like one of the hardest things for me is that moment when I put my review up on Rotten Tomatoes and I have to decide if it's fresh or rotten. And the weird thing, like today, I put up Here Comes the Boom, and I am very on the fence about it. And
Right.
sometimes you just have to take a big breath because you don't get to say medium rotten. You know, you have to say yes or you have to say no.
Right.
And what I found through just sort of watching it myself is that the sum total of opinion usually actually comes to what I feel about it. You know, there's enough yeses and enough nos that even though I only have to say 100% or 0 when I put my own score in, if it goes to 65, that's actually what I feel. And I think it's really strange that somehow Rotten Tomatoes and aggregators like that really do come to the truth, even though the individual critic doesn't get to specify what they feel.
That's a
I
really
agree with you
interesting
completely.
perspective. I've never really thought about that way. Huh.
All right, let's move on to the next question here. This one comes to us from Jacob. And Jacob asks, actually, this is one I get asked a lot. My question is, how do you guys deal with interviewing people and doing the promotion for a terrible movie? If you've seen it, that is. Example, interviewing Adam Sandler when Jack and Jill came out. Jacob. It is a great question. It is one that Roth and I actually discuss and talk about all the time. Because the fact of the matter is, we do promote... At working for AMC, it is not my job or Roth's job to tell you if a movie is good or bad.
Right.
That's a conflict of interest for us, so we can't do that.
Although
At the same time,
just today we both favored movies that are coming out this weekend, but sure.
Yes, yeah. But we'll talk positively I'll talk positively of a film if I really like it, but
Yeah.
I won't speak negatively of a film on AMC because that's a conflict. Clearly, and you know, so we've got too much integrity to spew our own opinions on something when clearly that's in contrast to what the goal of our company is. But at the same time, I have a really hard commitment to never saying I like something if I don't.
Right.
So I'll go and interview. I'm trying to think of a movie that's old enough now that I can safely talk about it. Okay, here's a great movie, the Amanda Siegfried movie, Gone.
Yeah.
Awful. So bad. But I had to go and interview her and sit down and talk with her. So what I will do in those situations, and I like her, actually, I like her quite a bit. So I went down and talked to her, and what I do is I will just focus my questions honestly, either on things that never reveal what my opinion is. Like I'll ask her, hey, talk about this particular storyline. Talk about this, talk about that. Or I will find an element of the film that I liked
Yeah. Right.
and say, talk about this particular thing. There's a movie that was out not too long ago, very recently, that was a really bad film, but I really did like the antagonist in it.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, you know, so-and-so playing, I'm being very careful not to reveal the movie. The so-and-so playing the antagonist, I mean, did such a good job in this. Talk about their job portraying that. So I'm telling the truth. I did like the protagonist, but I just don't get into the areas where I reveal my negative feelings, and I will not lie. I will not say I liked a film if I didn't. And you know what? AMC, this is one of the great things about this company. Never, ever, ever in the 3 years I've worked for AMC, and obviously AMC would love it if I just came on and said, this movie's awesome, this movie's awesome, this movie's awesome.
But the problem
they
with
have
that
never
is nobody
pressured
would
me to
believe
do
you.
that. Yeah, exactly.
Nobody would believe you.
But AMC has never once pressured us to say something good about a movie we did not like, ever.
Have you ever had this, though? Because this has happened to me interviewing, where you're interviewing an actor who's in a terrible movie, and they know it's a terrible movie, and they just don't even want to do the interview because everybody knows.
Everybody knows exactly. Actually, I had that happen pretty recently, and there was a moment where me and this actor, because I had interviewed him before, we just kind of looked, not very recently, I won't say when, but we kind of looked at each other one moment and we just went, what are you going to do? Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things. Like, it's not a very good movie. You know it. I know it. Here we are. Let's do our job, which was great because you hate when they're grumpy about it. Because everybody's just trying to do their job. But to your point, John, I have found it kind of an interesting challenge to like pull out those aspects of a movie that on the whole I really don't like and I would not recommend that people spend their money on. That for me, just as somebody who watches film and loves it and feels passionately about it, and I understand because I've worked in production too, what a Herculean effort, and you know this, what a Herculean effort it is just to make a film, and I fundamentally just respect getting it done, you know? Right. Like, to find the one or two things that I can talk to somebody about that I do think are interesting, you know? I think it's kind of a cool challenge, but to your point, I won't say, like, emphatically, I loved this movie, you should go see it. If I do, you'll probably see me in the interview at some point say that. Like, I love this movie. I want people to see it. Like, I said that in the Looper interviews. I said that in the Paranorman interviews. I said it in the Seven Psychopaths interviews. Because I really feel that way, and I really want people to go see it. The other things, it's just kind of a fun work challenge. Right. And you know what? The truth is that even if I don't respond to the movie, that doesn't mean that somebody else won't. You know? Well, yeah, maybe. I try to put myself in the position of the person that would. Right. I mean, I think it's old enough I can, like, say now that probably the hardest interview I ever did was Anthony Hopkins for The Wolfman. Because he was not happy to be in that movie. And he was not happy to talk about it. And everything I asked about him, he was so defensive, I think, of how bad this movie is, that he just kept saying, I just read the script. And I showed up. And I said my lines. And that was his only response. And it was very sad for everybody involved.
It's kind of funny you mentioned Hopkins. I think is my favorite interview I've ever done. Oh, really? When I interviewed him for what was the name of the Exorcism movie he was in last year? It might have just been The Last Exorcism or The Exorcism or The Exorcist, or can't remember what the name of the film was. But the movie was all right. The Last Rite. The Last. Thank you very much. Yeah. Yes. And the film was not good. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't horrible though. But I honestly felt at the time, I would give this guy an Academy Award nomination for this film. I thought his performance in the film was mind-boggling. And I went in, and I was so nervous. I'd never met him before. And so I'm asking his publicist, does he prefer being referred to as Sir Anthony? Because I know with Ben Kingsley, if you get that wrong, he'll get all on you. But do you want Sir Anthony? So I walk in, and he stands up to say hi to me. It's one of my favorite memories of doing this job. And I go, Sir Anthony, it's really an honor to meet you. And just as we were grasping hands to shake, he's got these huge hands, by the way. And he goes, Sir Anthony, and he pulls me in and gives me this big hug. He goes, oh, you're a dear boy. And I'm like, this is the greatest day ever. But anyway, that was that. But yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, that Amanda Seyfried one, that was. But we've all done it. I mean, every month we have a bad movie that we have to go and talk to about. But that doesn't mean we're not excited to talk to the stars who are in it or respect the work that's been done. Yeah. But just, we don't lie about it, and we won't criticize it, because that's not our role. Right. All right, time to move on to the last written question. This one comes from Charlie. It says, I'm a huge fan of the show. Love the podcast you've been doing over the years, John. Thank you very much. One of my favorite things about AMC theaters is how they often show marathons of all the previous films of a franchise before they release their next installment. I was wondering if AMC was planning on doing the same for the release of The Hobbit by showing the Lord of the Rings films. I cannot speak to that authoritatively because I don't know the answer. I will say I'll be shocked if we don't. Yeah. I'll be absolutely shocked if we don't. And man, that's going to be a long day. That's going to be that's the first thing I thought when you were saying that. I was like, oh, better caffeine up that day. Well,
I know one person who will be there, and that is my mother. Really? My mother.
Mine too. My mom is freakishly obsessed with Lord of the Rings.
Mine is the president of the San Antonio fan club, and she is. Oh, she's on One Ring Net all the time, and she is Eleanor the Hobbit. She dresses up as the daughter of Sam. And I find this amazing. She's also, I think she should be an elf because she's a tall platinum blonde, but she insists on being a hobbit.
I mean, first of all, if we do this at AMC, and like I'm convinced we will, but once again, I'm speaking just for myself.
Yeah, please invite my mom.
I will so be there.
Yeah.
This is I think the best done trilogy ever. Now, I love these films. Even if you do the Peter Jackson 4-hour extended versions of each, I'll be in the theater the whole time. I can't imagine us not doing it.
I would be shocked too if we don't do it. And I think that would have a huge turn. I like the marathons too because it's fun to see things, as a whole story. That
Avengers marathon we did here before the Avengers came out, that Marvel marathon, that was so much fun.
Yeah.
And the Harry Potter ones we've been to, and it's like so good. Well, listen, one of the things that we asked you guys to do that's a little bit different is in the mailbag last week I asked, hey, send us a video of you asking a question. We'll pick a couple out, and if we think your question's really good, we'll put you on air. So thank you for all you guys who sent in videos. We got time for 2 of them here quick. And check it out. Here we go. This is the first question in our video mailbag.
Hey, AMC, my name is Alberto Peñalosa, and I got one question for you. Do you think it'd be pretty cool for DC to skip Robin and go to Nightwing and make Nightwing Robin's mentor? Please tell me, because my friends think I'm stupid. And
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, and most of you do, I'm sure, but for those of you who don't know, Nightwing was actually Robin. Nightwing is Dick Grayson, the guy who was the original Robin, who then grew up and went off to be his own hero, Nightwing. And he's often come back in the comics to help out Batman and actually to become Batman a few times to cover for Bruce Wayne. And there have been a number of Robins after. They're on their 4th Robin right now, as a matter of fact. I hate the idea. I hate the idea for a couple of reasons, and then Amy, I want to know your thoughts on this. One is, I don't think you do a Nightwing movie without understanding who Nightwing is. I think one of the most fascinating things about Nightwing is the fact that he's Dick Grayson and all the daddy issues that him and Bruce Wayne have between each other. But the other thing is this: is that within this Nolan, and I know Nolan is done. There's no more Nolan Batman films, but Nolan has created a temperature for the Batman films. Robin does not fit into it at all. There is no room for Robin, I think, in that type of a Batman world. It makes no sense. It's contrary to everything, to the tone and the feel and the sense that Nolan has established. And even though he's moved on, I don't think you go completely against the grain and go opposite that. That's just my feeling. Amy?
Well, I think it's because of that's the reason why I think it might be a good idea. Because I can't picture them using the word Robin in the film for real. I can't imagine Joseph Gordon-Levitt wanting to play Robin in that guise. He'd want to go darker.
Right.
And that's why I think being sort of like a more grown-up and troubled version of that character, if that's the way they decide to go with it. I mean, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is still refusing to answer any questions about it at all.
Well, and our understanding is that Warner Brothers is done with the Nolan universe. So if they did do something like this, it wouldn't be Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
I'll bet you
which
$5.
Also takes away from
I'll bet you $5 they try to figure this out.
Well,
but here's the other thing, and that
there's money involved. You might be right.
John's brought this up too, though, that Joseph Gordon-Levitt in The Dark Knight Rises is not Dick Grayson. He's not. He's actually not Robin.
No.
Right.
His name is Robin, which is like a fun shout out.
That was
to
just
fans,
that was a wink of the eye by Christopher Nolan to the fans.
But
he was not suggesting that he was Robin.
I don't know. I think you throw enough money at that franchise.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, Warner Brothers is taking serious meetings about it.
But I also think they're serious about rebooting it. I really do. I think they're very serious about rebooting it and moving on from it. And I think they know trying to continue in a Nolan world without Nolan, without Christian Bale, is a no-win scenario. I think they know they're better off if they move on.
And I think that I will be impressed if there is a filmmaker out there that can deliver a Robin that works. Because I think the whole idea of the character, like if you have 50 comics to like buy into and get to know and like get invested in the father-son sort of dynamic of this, that's one thing. But the whole idea of Robin the sidekick does not work in our modern context. There's such a barrier to us connecting with that. I think I would just be really, really surprised if there's a filmmaker that can make me as an audience member buy into that relationship and not feel like it's a little bit cheesy.
Now, speaking of filmmakers who might, who could do Batman, this next video email is actually a little bit about Joss Whedon. Here, take a look at this.
Hey, this is Will, and you said you wanted to try out this new video question thing, so I am. And my question for you today is, I was watching your show a couple episodes ago, and you were talking about how if Joss Whedon left after the second Avengers, what genre you would want him to film. And my question for you today is, would it be a good idea for him to direct the new Batman reboot? I love the show, guys, and keep up the good work.
Thanks for the question. No. Okay, let's get this straight. First of all, it's always the same. Well, who should take over this franchise? And everybody wants to list one of the three major directors. It's either got to be Peter Jackson, or it's got to be Joss Whedon, or it's got to be Steven Spielberg, or whatever.
Steven Spielberg, you say? No, I'm listening.
No, don't. And not only is it impossible that Joss Whedon would come back to do a Batman film, especially since he's so ingrained now in the Marvel universe,
right.
I would not. And this is going to shock you because everybody knows how big of a fan I am of Joss Whedon. I would not want Joss Whedon to do a Batman film. You know why? Because one of the things that makes Whedon so damn good is he's able to bring this levity, even within the most dark stuff. He can make, I mean, if you just look on the surface of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, that could be a dark, macabre kind of whole thing. And he makes it witty and punchy and just really light. That is what he does. That's what he brought to Serenity, to Firefly, to the Avengers.
Yeah,
right.
Everything he has touched and done, that does not fit, once again, within the matrix of what Batman is. It doesn't work.
But what about this? I mean, we've got kind of an interesting contradiction here because we're saying that, like, Warner Brothers can't recapture the Nolan of Batman.
Right.
So what if they go in a different way and try to recapture, like, the pop 60s fun of Batman? And if they take it in, like, that kind of brighter area, then Whedon could fit.
But then you get Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze.
Yeah,
Didn't they do that already?
Did he win an Oscar for that, though?
That's good.
I mean, that's a fair point, but I think it's a terrible idea. Because,
it's a terrible idea.
You know, I mean, because and I know, like, you didn't totally love the Avengers.
Not totally, no.
But even for if you really did, I just am so committed and really believe that the best thing that Warner Brothers can do is you're not going to get Nolan again, but to look at that tone and have DC, their DC cinematic offerings, even though DC comics are a little more like moralistic and like light characters other than Batman. If you take that darker tone that was established with Nolan and run with that, because Marvel already owns the other thing, you're not going to compete with Marvel that way. First of all, Joss Whedon is under contract for 3 years, so he can't do it in the next 3 years, and they're probably going to want to start developing the Batman reboot, if not Justice League.
There's some closet right now where they've got a team of writers already working on
Batman and Justice League.
I hope it is just a closet. That's
a small closet with like 7 guys.
Oh, I want
Can I have something?
No. Watch the green light.
Yeah.
Figure out what we're going to do about Robin, then you can eat.
Exactly. I don't know, like that's sort of the direction that I think that they should go in, and I think Marvel should continue owning the tone that it has owned so well over the last couple of years, and never the twain shall meet. And I mean, yeah, Joss Whedon is great because he has a real sense of play. No matter if he's dealing with death or the apocalypse, there's always a sense of play in what he does, and I think that's what works well.
And I think we see Warner Brothers doing that right now in adopting the tone of the Batman franchise in Man of Steel. I mean, I think we've got a sense. It's hard to say definitively. We don't see a lot in the Man of Steel trailers, but it does kind of communicate, I wouldn't even say darker tone, but a more real world tone to it. You know, and a real,
grounded,
deadliest catch kind of tone.
I love that that's what he's doing for his job.
But anyway, we love to know what you guys think. But listen, folks, we have gone overtime, actually, so it's time for us to wrap this thing up. I want to thank, first of all, sitting behind there for the Vacationing Dentist again is Kareem. Kareem, thanks so much for everything.
Hi, guys.
I want to thank Roth Cornett.
Thank you. And just to be clear, I am not promoting 50 Shades of Grey. Those are just my thoughts on why it's a phenomenon.
Okay. And thank you so much for a very first timer breaking her virginity here on the show.
Oh, that's embarrassing. That's very 50 Shades of Grey of you to say.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. I had a lot of fun.
Heck.
And thank you guys for joining us and watching the show. Once again, don't forget to follow us and subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. Visit amctheaters.com all the time for your movie tickets, theater and showtime information, and get all your movie news at amctheaters.com/movie-news. And just thanks so much for joining us. Don't forget, we will be back again next Thursday, same time, same place. Find it right here. And until then, my name's John Campia. Bye-bye.